Welcome to another episode of Behind the Business presented by Gore Mutual. I'm your host, Ian McLean, President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. This podcast is recorded on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Each week I sit down for candid conversations where we go beyond the boardroom and behind the business to uncover the real stories of Waterloo Region's business community. Today's conversation is one I think a lot of leaders and organizations will find incredibly relevant, especially as more of our businesses operate across borders and cultures. I'm joined by Tomoko King, a Japanese-Canadian business advisor who helps organizations navigate the real challenges that come with cross-border partnerships. Things like misaligned expectations, different decision-making styles, and communication gaps that can quietly slow down progress or strain relationships. Tomoko brings a unique lens to her work. She was born in Canada, raised in Japan, and spent over 15 years working with Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada, where she built a foundation in operational excellence and strategy execution. Since then, she's worked across sectors, including healthcare, municipal government, and not-for-profits. In this episode, we're going to explore what it really takes to build effective global partnerships, how leaders can bridge cultural differences without losing momentum, and why alignment is the key to execution. Join me in this episode as we go behind the business with Tomoko King. Well, we're excited to have you here today, Tomoko. Thanks so much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks for having me, Ian.
Listen, you've had a unique journey, and I thought this was interesting. You growing up both between Canada and Japan. You built your career across sectors and now advising organizations on cross-border collaboration, which is in this day and age is just tremendously important as we see global markets changing, as we see changing relationships between business and supply chains. How have those lived experiences in Japan and Canada helped shape the way you think about leadership and collaboration in the work that you do today?
And if it's okay to share a little bit of background, how it all started. So my father was on a 2-year research assignment at NRC, National Research Council Canada in Ottawa. So that's when I was born. And after 2 years returning to Japan, I grew up in a place called Osaka in Japan. And back then, even though Japan nowadays is getting more and more global, back then it wasn't that much so. But my parents were a little bit unique in that they belonged to this association called International Academic Foreign Exchange Association. So we were a host family. So growing up in my grade school days, every summer we had a foreign student staying with us in our house. One from the States, one from Canada once, Germany, Switzerland, and so on. So growing up in a young age, I was exposed to sort of multicultural environment. Then, as you mentioned, diverse career across sectors in Canada sort of shaped who I am today, where I'm very, very comfortable in multicultural working environment and actually embrace that. And that's what I focus on my work, embracing that differences and find synergy.
You spent, so the local connection, you spent 15 years at Toyota Motor Manufacturing, which is obviously known globally for operational excellence. And certainly, I think their number one plant in the world is actually between Cambridge and Woodstock. As they consider that's their number one plant. So you spent 15 years at Toyota. What are some of the most important lessons you learned from that chapter in your working career that still show up in your work today?
So the term operational excellence can be sometimes misunderstood. Some companies or some individuals tend to think operational excellence is all about efficiency and speed. But what Toyota really taught me around operational excellence is it's not just about speed. It's about alignment and balance of all stakeholder needs. So not just shareholders, it's not just about making money, but team members, they call it, employees, customers, suppliers, business partners, and community. So when you try to meet these objectives for all stakeholders, safety, quality, productivity, cost, environment, it's not just about speed. Mm-hmm. So really, when all of these are well balanced, true operational excellence happens. So in my work, learning from that lessons, along with so many Toyota mm-hmm. lessons that I've gained, I really focus on authentic alignment within the organizations between people, strategy, operations, and culture.
And, in Toyota, when they're doing their own analysis of what they consider, because there's the external accolades that Toyota plants get around the world. So J.D. Powers and others will do those. But internally, that's saying something that inside Toyota, that the plants here in Canada are at the top. And I find it interesting. It's all the things you talked about: quality, teamwork. Like there are so many elements that go into how efficient they are. They're, the number of recalls. All of those things are extraordinarily low. It is in a unique environment to be in, and you've taken that and put it into your the rest of your career. Mm-hmm. You've navigated multiple sectors. So we talked about Toyota. That's obviously the private sector. Been in the public sector, non-for-profits, higher education, and now entrepreneurship. Was there a specific moment, or how did you kind of transit from each of those different things? And they are different. I mean, private sector versus public sector, not-for-profit versus academic or education. Was there a certain moment in those times that you said, or a realization you said, I think that I'm going to take all of those learnings from the variety of professional experiences you had and say, I'm going to start my own practice?
Mm-hmm. So looking back, at the time I didn't quite think this way. Is that after a pretty significant family event that happened in Japan, I decided to take a little bit of break from my full-time career for about 1.5 years or so, while I still taught project management part-time at Conestoga College. Mm-hmm. And then when I felt ready to go back into full-time workforce, and I started having conversations in my networks and some interviews, something was sort of continuing to pull me back from that direction, and I didn't realize what was happening. And then I kind of remembered that ever since I was young, I always had this dream of running my own business someday. And I thought, someday is like now. So I have to do it now. And it just was a very natural move for me to think about packaging and leveraging all my personal lived experience in both countries and that diverse career experience to contribute to these two countries that I call home and strengthen the relationship from learning from both.
It's always still, even when you've got all those experiences, it's still taking that step into entrepreneurship and doing your own thing is there's risk and there's nerves involved in that. As more organizations look globally for growth, and I think this is very timely for us here in Canada, notwithstanding Donald Trump will be gone someday, I think the lasting legacy will actually be how much he has fractured the relationship between the two countries from an economic perspective and a partnership perspective. And so it leads to when the prime minister or the premiers are all talking about where are other markets, right? Europe, but there's a lot around Asia too, and lots of reasons why Asian markets for energy, for supply chains, for advanced manufacturing, et cetera, are going to be places for us to do business because there's increased business. So there is lots of opportunity. South Korea, Japan, obviously. But there's a complexity with going literally halfway around the world into a different culture. But what are the things when you look at it are the competitive advantages that both Japan and Canada bring to kind of addressing what may be some complexities, but to having this new cross-border or inter-country relationship and partnerships between business?
So Japan and Canada had absolutely great competitive advantages to work together. And as you said, without getting into the details of the cultural, political, geopolitical environment, Canada is shifting exports and trading from the U.S. to other countries, and one of that being Asian countries and Japan. Japan and Canada has free trade partnership and a lot of long-lasting, long-term relationship. And just a couple weeks ago, I attended virtually a Canada-Japan bilateral summit that was held in Toronto. And Ambassador Ian MacKay, another great Ian,
Yes.
had addressed how this relationship between the two countries are increasingly becoming more strategic. And there's real momentum. As you mentioned, Japan within Asia is a very strategic gateway to the rest of Asian countries. Japan has really good high reputation, so any countries that does business with Japan already are almost accepted into the rest of the Asian countries. And as you mentioned, there are very common alignment and interest like R&D, innovation, AI, cybersecurity, research, and advanced manufacturing. So there is a great alignment between the two already with great government support, including some funding, mission trip, delegation, trade mission trips, and so on. Now, speaking of alignment, I have been seeing great potential between this region and my hometown, Osaka, because big cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Tokyo get enough attention, enough support, and a lot of things happening between the government. And interestingly, this region, Waterloo region, and my hometown, Osaka, have a lot in common. Those AI, innovation, great universities, ecosystem, vibe, and hubs. So I have been passionately promoting this region to my networks in Japan in every chance I get. So today is one of them. Yeah. And, one of your chamber's 3-minute networker events, I spoke about that. A lot of people came to talk to me with interest. Had another event in Toronto. I spoke about this. Also in Japan side, I was interviewed by a Japanese podcast. I talked about this in Japanese. And I'm headed to Japan next month and organizing a couple of events to actually connect and promote about this region. I'm doing this for free for you.
Yeah.
So I should be charging it.
Yeah.
So there's really great momentum and potential.
Yeah. Let's talk. You've worked closely with senior leaders and project teams, navigating the dynamics between the countries and between the cultures, if you will. What's the biggest leadership blind spot you see when it comes to managing across sectors? And I would say, for Canadian companies, there's always, I think, the fear of, the U.S. was always seen as you're close, speak the same language, and in some respects feels more like we're North America. Mm-hmm. So there's always a bit of reticence, whether it's even going to Europe or Asia. But managing cultures is part of the cost of doing business once you're outside of your home borders. What's the blind spot that you see when it comes to managing across cultures?
Mm-hmm. I see two big things. One is this ticking the boxes approach. Mm-hmm. A lot of companies, unfortunately, think that, okay, we implemented a DEI training or a cross-cultural training 101, tick, we're good, right? And also over-reliance on technology. Mm-hmm. I've been hearing so often these days, we've implemented this great customized AI tool that translates the languages like this, and it'll translate and help us communicate cross borders. Mm-hmm. But those tools don't really translate the culture, right? Mm-hmm. The nuance, the silence, what's not being said, those sometimes is actually more important than what's being written or said that AI or tools can't. So the cultural fluency over language fluency and the blind spot of this kind of surface level approach and implementation of we've done one-off training or we've done, we have AI. And when the work is much deeper than that, that's the huge blind spot that I see.
And a lot of those things are melded together. It's not one or the other. It's not just AI. It's how those things come together.
Yes.
You're actively involved locally here with the local chapter of the Project Management Institute, and those are professionals like yourself that are managing of a variety of different aspects. What trends are you seeing now in how organizations are approaching project leadership? And why is it important for you, from a personal perspective, to stay engaged in that community? Because, everyone's got a different approach to project management. Every company does. But why is it important for you to stay involved with the Project Management Institute?
So Project Management Institute, PMI for short, is global organization. So it's across many countries and many chapters, including I'm a local member of CTT, Canada's Technology Triangle chapter that serves Guelph and Waterloo region surrounding. I'm also a member of Japan chapter in Tokyo as well, because PMI's trend and PMI, what they have done is recognize that best practice project management is universal. So they have gotten ahead of that and created global certifications. And PMP is one of them, project management professional. So I was certified back in 2002 when the term project management wasn't even very common. Early days at Toyota, actually, when I was working at Toyota, project management was really common among IT and more construction businesses, but not so much across. So they were referring to ad hoc initiatives that didn't quite fit into the routine operational processes, but realized that this is all project that I was managing. Anything that has a definitive start and end with a unique objective is a project, right? Any event. So, for example, the chamber events that your event teams organize, they're all projects. And realizing that and being certified when it wasn't really well known in industries outside of IT and construction opened doors for me in my career. And that's why I appreciate and recognize and respect and giving back to PMI as volunteer is very important, and growing that professional in this community.
The Behind the Business podcast is made possible through the support of our title sponsor, Gore Mutual. Proudly Canadian, Gore Mutual has stayed true to one purpose for more than 185 years, insurance that does good. It's the reason they exist. They believe that when we focus on being good, doing good, and spreading good, we all thrive together. We're grateful for their continued commitment to our local communities and the positive impact they make every day. For more information, visit goremutual.ca. So the Project Management Institute is hosting an event on Friday, the April 17th.
Yes, that's right.
And you've asked me, and I don't know why you asked me, but I'm thrilled to be one of your keynote speakers for this evening. Tell me about what the crowd will look like, and what you can share about what the attendees can expect, and why it's a valuable opportunity for others like you that are project management professionals. What are they going to get from this session on the 17th?
Yes. First of all, they get to hear from you.
I don't know whether that's any good, but I mean, and part of what the reason you asked me to do that is putting some context around how quickly Waterloo Region is growing, and our Vision 1 million. Are we ready to be a community of 1 million? Because there's lots of projects that need to be done, from healthcare to transit to housing, all of those things. Yeah. So that was a good fit, but mine will be less on, because I'm certainly not a professional in the project management, but understanding the things that need to be done.
Yeah. So our chapter is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Yeah. So we have this one of the biggest, or probably the biggest events we've had in our chapter history. And when we started planning for this event back in December, I had just attended one of your Vision 1 Million Are You Ready series events. And then I thought to myself, how fitting would it be if I ask Ian to speak about 1 million vision? Because our chapter has experienced significant and rapid growth over the last 12 months or so, almost like 3 times the membership than the last 12 months ago. So this is in a rapid growth. Are you ready is a great theme. And so we wanted to have you talk about 1 Vision 1 Million and the project and programs that are expected to come in this region over the coming years. That would be very, very resonating to predominantly project management professionals in the audience. But also through our event partnership, thanks to your marketing and event team, we've been co-promoting, and it's on your website calendar, and that had expanded our audience to some of the chambers. Chamber members are coming to, and past presidents from our chapter, our PMI global representatives. So we'll be a very good mixture of community leaders. And what to expect, we start at 6 o'clock, beautiful Cambridge Mill. Everybody loves that.
Yeah.
And the first 45 minutes would be a cocktail reception, mingle, networking, and then we'll start the formal program. You're the open keynote speaker, set the tone, and the event theme is honoring our legacy, inspiring our future. And after a 3-course sit-down dinner, I'll be moderating a fireside chat type of industry panel with Toyota executive. Phil Sadler is a former colleague of mine from Toyota days and a friend. Lise Lefay from OpenText. She started her career from a project coordinator, a junior project manager, all the way to an SVP running the project team. So it would be very resonating for the audience. And Nick Otson, the president of Skills Wave, which was born and raised through D2L in this region. So a really great mix. And then after that, we'll have DJ, dance, music.
Sounds like a fun night.
It will be great.
Okay, you're also, just as we wrap up, you're also passionate about supporting women in international business, particularly that obviously Canada-Japan connection. Tell us about the initiative you're working on in that area and what drives your focus and how you're delivering on that.
So I belong to this organization called WeBe Canada, WBE, standing for Women Business Enterprises Canada Council. And we call it WeBe for short. And this is an organization that certifies women business owners in Canada and has membership of the certified Canadian business owners as well as corporations and government organizations that want to hire women for supplier diversification. So they advocate for women business owners. And the new president of WeBe Canada, who is as new as, I believe, mid-February, so she's brand new, and is very, very much keen in promoting sort of global reach. And when we met recently, she realized that I'm going to Japan next month. So she and I are starting to initiate something very exciting in early stages still, but to connect the Canadian women business owners with Japanese business owners. And what's driving me to do this is, as we all know, women are still underrepresented in business organizations, and that's more true in Japan. And Japan has now first female prime minister. So the excitement and momentum is true there among Japanese business professionals. So I thought would be a really good opportunity for me to contribute, given my background and connections in both countries, to be able to collaborate, connect the two for collaboration.
All right. Before we get to our rapid fire section, just a couple of quick ones. Where do you see your work evolving on both those fronts, right? Empowering women or promoting women, but also the project management work. How do you see your work evolving over the next few years?
So I'm very fortunate to have dual citizenship and 2 passports and 2 places to go back and forth. So currently, on average, I go to Japan once a year, every year, but I'm hoping to increase that as family on both sides doesn't mind. And so this trip is about sort of initiating, planting seeds in both, as I said, 2 things that I want to promote: this region and Osaka connection and women in both countries. For both 2 focus points, I'm hoping over the next coming years, I can formalize more from initiating this during this trip through collaboration with both public and private sectors, using my network and leveraging partnerships, and that so that both fronts it'll be more formalized and strengthened.
That's good. And for our listeners or those watching, many of whom are leaders and professionals in their own right, and everyone in their own way is navigating the complexity of their own organizations. What's one mindset or a shift that they can make that they should take away after hearing this podcast that might be helpful to them?
Sure. So my approach is simplify to clarify. In this age, digital, and there's information overload and complexity. Just when people are confused or complex, usually because there's too much information. So my framework is called Lean N by 3, M times 3. So lean messages, lean meetings, and lean materials. And pretty much a Toyota Japan inspired framework. So, crisp and simple and less messaging, short, less meetings, one pager instead of lengthy reports. And that's the work that I incorporate into work. So message takeaway is when in doubt, simplify to clarify.
Well, I probably have people paying more attention when if it gets too complicated, people tune out. Listen, great insights there. This podcast is it's about hearing stories like yours and the work that you're doing, but it's also about leadership. And so I ask the same series of questions to everyone that comes on the podcast, kind of just get an approach for how people view and leadership translates for them. So if I was to ask you, or what would you tell your younger self, what would that one thing be?
Follow your curiosity. Because when you feel curious about something, it means your mind or body, something is telling you something. And from my own experience in my life, whenever I sort of ignore that, it keeps coming back and haunting me. And sometimes I end up, okay, I'll do this, and then regret that I didn't start sooner. So to my younger self, follow your curiosity.
That's good. Who or what inspires you?
My parents, both mom and dad, but in terms of as a woman, my mom inspires me. And starting from, when she came to Canada, really to support my dad. And she was pregnant with me. And my two older sisters were 1 and 2.
Good Lord.
And she left Japan where she was familiar and comfortable and came all the way to Ottawa with no winter jackets. Right? And then it's just never end. Throughout her life and to date, she really devoted herself to support her husband, my dad, us kids, now grandkids, supporting, my nephew, starting his own farm in Kyoto. She's supporting that. She's providing a place I can go so I could pursue my dream. So yes, my mom.
That is a tremendous legacy for sure. If you weren't in your current career, now you've done a bunch of different things, but if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
I have a little bit of a full circle moment these days. Before I came to this region, I was downtown Toronto looking for something to do. And, in my 20s, I wanted to live downtown Toronto, hip, have fun. And I was speaking to this recruiter and I said, I've done some travel industry work. I've, worked at Niagara Falls, the hotel, and Chateau Lake Louise in Alberta and California. I said, I'm looking for something like that, travel job. And she said, okay, there's stuff that if you want to do it, but there's this contract at Toyota that I highly recommend in Cambridge. And I said, Cambridge, where's that?
Yeah.
I said, I want to live downtown Toronto. She insisted. She said, just take 1 year contract. And if you don't like it, come back, I'll help you again. So I said, okay, I'll do it for 1 year. And I moved to this area, found a place in Kitchener, and never left this region since. But what's interesting, the full circle moment, is that Japan being such a top popular destination, a lot of friends lately have come out and asked me to help with their trip planning so that they can get some, authentic experience curated that's not available through, TikTok or YouTube. and I'm actually helping a friend of mine their trip right now. So that has probably grown to be a side gig. So
a side hustle, being a travel agent.
Yeah.
Are you reading a book or do you listen to a podcast? What do you do? What do you do to kind of stay current or charge down?
I do listen to and read both Japanese and English books and podcasts, but the English one I really enjoy recently is Mel Robbins. I find her really down to earth and genuine, and a lot of things uplifting and liberating. So I often,
And what's your favorite business here in Waterloo Region? So is it a restaurant, a coffee shop?
Ever since I moved to this region, so many people have asked, where should I go for good sushi? Right? And I used to say, you got to go to Toronto for authentic sushi by Japanese chef.
Yeah.
But, in the theme of promoting this region, there is this really good sushi joint, right? Downtown Waterloo on King Street called Watami.
Yeah.
You know that place?
Yeah.
And the chef is not Japanese, but the sushi is pretty darn good.
Okay.
And I have to say it has the approval of the Japanese people in this region. So there you go.
They're voting with their feet. Where's the best place for anyone that's listening to connect with you or to learn more about your work? How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is easy, Tomoko King, and my website, tomokoking.com. So simple, yeah.
Okay.
Love to connect.
Well, thank you, Tomoko, for spending time with us today. I know I always say this, but it's true. Most valuable commodity that most business people have, certainly entrepreneurs have, is their time. So thank you for spending some of it with us today.
Thank you for having me, Ian.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Behind the Business, proudly presented by Gore Mutual, insurance that does good. New episodes drop every Thursday, so be sure to tune in next week. You can also visit greaterkwchamber.com to catch up on past episodes anytime. We'll see you next time as we continue to go Behind the Business.